Bottoms up. So, we're gonna discuss At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. Now, of course, we've all heard about Lovecraft. Of course, this is the first time I have read his work. This is a little pocket-sized edition, Romanian edition. Uh, you could read this in one sitting if you really cared, but I read it in like a couple of days because it was just, how do I describe it? It was not good in my opinion. Now, others worship Lovecraft, and I'm not gonna make an assessment on that just yet, but this being the first work of his that I have read, I'm just gonna have to say this: this book is absolute garbage. Uh, first of all, where's the madness? This is at the Mountains of Madness, and there is absolutely no madness to be had, which, of course, disappointed me. Now, we have a group of explorers, adventurers, and they go to Antarctica, right? To explore and do some scientific drilling, whatever, right? And they get separated. One of their group gets separated, and our narrator goes after him, and he discovers that the mountains are actually a sort of castle labyrinth, tens of millions of years old, and there are some creatures there, and apparently they have a history that is displayed on murals carved inside the mountains on the walls, and whatever, right? Let me tell you what I thought about this. It was absolutely a chore to read. It was it was a labor. It was a drag. It was a hassle, right? And I understand that this was written in a certain time. Uh, Exploration and adventure were still a thing, scientific endeavors, and I understand that the characters are, professionals, experts, scientific people, biologists, geologists. They're scientific people. That's what I want to say. And, I understand why this was written in this way, but me as a reader, it's absolutely almost impossible for me to be engaged in this one way or the other. Okay, this book is a drag from beginning to end. Right? The characters are inexistent. The characters are absolutely at the basic level. They're bare level. There's nothing there for me to latch on to. You see, the hallmarks of a good writer are to have a engaging story and to have human engaging characters. And there's nothing with those two aspects they are missing from this book. Right? The story is it's vacant, the characters are hollow. There's nothing in here to keep me engaged, right? The way that it was written, we have the perspective of the uh, narrator here, our main guy, and he is just, well, he is just boring as fuck, right? He is just like a professor, uh, right? And I understand that when this book starts, then they go there to the Antarctica. He, bombards us with this scientific mumbo jumbo, this scientific lingo, and I get that because they're experts, they're scientific people, and they went there to do their job. But then they discover, strange things, strange creatures. They go to the mountains. The mountains appear to be of some sort of crazy old archaic ancient castle with cosmic creatures, whatever, and all that he can think about is to talk about the geology and let me tell you about these rocks and these sediments and let me tell you about continents and let me tell you about this castle. You see, every room is 5 by 5, and I'm like, bro, you're in a fucking ancient castle with celestial deities, bro, and all you can do is tell me about the dimensions of the fucking rooms. I'm like, bad writing. This is bad writing. I don't want to offend anybody, but this is bad writing. You know, and not to be mean to the guy, but uh, if this is how his entire work is written, I mean, no wonder he had so many problems getting published and recognized, right? Because I mean, his writing style is absolutely dry, devoid of anything that is you know, exciting, endearing, engaging, exciting. There's nothing. There's nothing, right? I mean, look how thin this book is, and it is a drag to read, right? So that's with the characters. The characters are inexistent. Uh, we mostly hear from the narrator and his friend. I think it's Danford, the other one. And then we have another guy, Lake, who disappears, and everybody gets killed by the celestial deities, whatever. The story, uh, yet again, I mean, right? They go to this wasteland, to this abyss of a place, Antarctica. It's cold. You know, they do their scientific analyses, blah blah blah, and then they discover these creatures, right? And instead of focusing on that with passion and awe, right? I mean, this narrator, he keeps on talking about geology and the rocks and the sediments and the dimensions of rooms and stalagmites and stalactites. Bro, do you understand that you have discovered some sort of primordial pre-human creature that came to the earth from the stars, as the murals say, and they have built this fucking metropolis in the mountains that, from what I understand here, there are tens of millions of years old. And all that this guy can focus on is, let me tell you some of my nerd trivia. Let me give you some info dump about geology and rocks and minerals. I'm like, bad writing, bad writing. This cannot keep me engaged in any way, shape, or form. I wanted to find out more about the history of these creatures and this castle, and we get a bare minimum, which isn't bad in itself, but this guy just keeps on rambling like the nerd he is. He is in the presence of celestial beings in a castle that is a mountain, like it's 10 kilometers long, high, I mean, and it's tens of millions of years old, and he keeps on focusing on this nerd shit. It's nerd shit. And I understand that Lovecraft, he was an avid reader, you know, and it shows that just he just showers this story with unessential information. It's trivia, it's scientific, nerd, nothing, right? Listen, to all of you aspiring writers. I'm a writer. To all of you aspiring writers, don't do this, okay? Don't litter your pages with unessential nothing, with garbage trivia that nobody cares about. Focus on your story. The characters are in a castle built by celestial creatures that is tens of millions of years old, and all this guy can ramble about is about fucking penguins and geology, and he keeps giving dimensions of rooms, and he keeps talking about, you know, I mean, it's just bad. Don't do this. As a writer myself, I can confidently tell you that this is not good writing. This is not good storytelling. Uh, this is not how a book should be. You see, from the moment they discovered those creatures and went to the mountains, this book should have been nothing but awe, amazement, and terror. Okay, and it was just a chore. It was like, okay, bro, you found some monsters, and oh boy, they're penguins, albino penguins, and oh, we're gonna mention the Necronomicon, and I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Uh, and again, Lovecraft is the favorite of a lot of readers, and you know, this is my first book of his that I have read, so I'm not gonna make a definitive, uh, classification that he is a bad writer. I still have Cthulhu and Dagon on the back burner, but I hope they won't be as disappointing as this. So, for the moment, I'm just gonna have to speak about this book, which is, of course, awfully bad, awfully bad. I was anticipating this to be over. I was just so happy when I was done with this book because it was a waste of time. It was a waste of time. The story structure in itself is just, I was like at page 30 and he's talking about mountains and shit. I was at page 60 and he was talking about stalagmites and stalactites, and I was at page 120 and he was talking about penguins and the dimensions of rooms, and he was talking about the Jurassic period and dinosaurs and mammals. And bro, I understand that the character is a scientific person. I don't know if he's a biologist or a geologist, but goddamn. Okay, this book is not about flexing your scientific muscles and using scientific lingo. This is about the mountains of madness. Where's the madness? There is no madness here, or I should say the madness is this character's preposterous obsession with flexing on us people with his knowledge of, I don't know, trivia, nerd trivia. Look at me, I know about the Jurassic period. This is about the mountains of madness. Where's the madness? You know, I'm not trying to be mean, but this is a ludicrous book that fails. Listen, I'm being harsh, but this book fails miserably in every aspect. Okay, this book. I'm not talking about the writer, his entire work. I'm just talking about this book. In this book, Lovecraft fails absolutely miserably. This should have been about the madness and the horror. Where is the atmosphere? Where is the true terror of facing this knowledge that there have been creatures here that have landed on Earth way before mankind even came out of the mud, right? And there are two distinct categories of creatures. We have the old ones and the Shagaroffs or whatever the fuck. I mean, and then we learn something about their history, that there are periods of, progress, evolution, advancement, and then they fall into degradation, and then the old ones battle the squid Cthulhu creatures. Of course, now we have three categories of celestial beings, and there's this fucking war on Earth, and then the old ones get defeated, and then we have their slaves, the Shagaroffs, who remain, but they're also in degradation. So this bit was also convoluted to me because I don't know nothing about his Lovecraftian mythos. I don't know nothing about him except Cthulhu. So I was a bit confused about that. Now listen. This book isn't completely a failure, because at the end, I think it is basically the last chapter, when our two characters fly away on their plane from the Mountains of Madness, and our narrator, he flies the plane, and the other character, Danworth, or whatever the fuck his name is, he looks back and he sees something that absolutely scars him for life. We don't know what it is. My guess is that it is Cthulhu, okay? Because it is specified here that it isn't, the Shaggorath or the old ones. So it's nothing that we're familiar with. So what this character sees at the end, at the Mountains of Madness, it terrifies him. It destroys his mind. He becomes a nervous wreck. So that part I thought was intriguing. That is the only part of this book that I thought, okay, this is some good writing. But of course, a couple of pages cannot save an entire book, right? So that was the only part that I thought was worth a read. That part was worth reading. And I was, I should say that's about it. I don't want to keep trashing this book, because I know Lovecraft is, like I said, a lot of people's favorite. Okay, I don't want to trash this book, but this book is a non-entity. It is garbage. It is a chore to read. You understand? If a book is a chore to read, it is not good. I don't care how much you love it. It is a chore to read. Aspiring writers do not do what this book and this writer has done. With this book, there's nothing here, nothing engaging. We don't find anything out about the characters. The characters are not even one-dimensional. There's no dialogue, I think. Absolutely no dialogues. There's no back and forth between the characters. We don't find anything interesting about the characters, not even about the narrator protagonist. We don't explore their relationships, because there are no relationships, because they're not people. You see, characters should be people, but these are not people. These are just one-dimensional, paper-thin characters. There's nothing for me to resonate with, right? And I'm speaking as a writer. See, I'm a writer as well. I understand what's good, because I've been writing for a fucking decade, and this book fails miserably. Right, at storytelling, the structure of the story, and let me tell you, at the beginning there's this trope about there's the way that the exposition at the beginning is through these radio transmissions, right? And this is a tool that is useful to progress the story and inform the reader, and develop the story, the action as it goes along. But even in these radio transmissions, we get info dumps that are not necessary. This character Lake, he finds these creatures that have these heads that are shaped like stars, and they have tentacles and what have you, and they're very resistant to the elements. And instead of being fucking freaked out, he goes in nerd overdrive, and he keeps giving these lame ass scientific ramblings and rantings that nobody really cares about. This guy finds celestial beings, and the only way he can respond is by being a nerd, a scientific nerd, right? There's no humanity at all in these characters. It's not realistic. It is absolutely not realistic, right? And it shows that the author was interested in, one, flexing his intellectual muscles, and secondly, he was interested in developing his mythos. He wasn't interested in in constructing and polishing a good story. He wasn't interested in characters, in developing characters. He was only interested in two things: flexing his nerd muscles, and secondly, he was interested in uh, evolving and progressing his mythology of the Necronomicon and his Cthulhu's and what have you. Okay, and that there's nothing wrong with that, but I at least give me some characters to resonate with, to bounce off of. Give me a story that is engaging. These characters, they find themselves at the mountains of madness, and all they can do is spout nonsense about geology, right? And telling me about, uh, the style of the murals, and when they should have gone insane. And I'm gonna say it again. The madness at the mountains of madness is these characters' obsession with senseless, useless, pointless uh, trivia. Okay, they are obsessed with pointless trivia, and that is their madness. That is their true madness. They don't even care about this place they're in. All they care about is their little bubble of expertise, and that is their madness. Okay, this was at the mountains of madness. I mean, it wasn't a good read, and that's about it. See ya.